But moving on, we're going to get into some recap of a very hectic weekend of college football. One of the most hectic of the entire season. A lot of very, very, very good weekends for college football, and this was definitely up there. We're going to run it in chronological order, I believe, starting with, we can touch on some games. There's a lot of big ones, but starting on Black Friday for the Egg Bowl. Does anybody have any thoughts on the Egg Bowl?
Memphis took down Tulane on Thursday.
There you go. Talk some Memphis Tulane.
I did not watch it, but shout out
but
to
they
Memphis.
did. We could be box score watchers.
The NFL.
Yeah.
I know you. Those games, I mean, the Bears game was good. This is NFL talk. Bears game was good, but the others were just stinkers. So
yeah, they weren't very good.
Man starts an NFL TikTok, and all of a sudden,
hey. It's my
niche.
I get to complain about my team. I think it's more than fair.
No, it's good. You need an outlet.
Yeah,
because your poor fiance.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Valid.
But yes, yeah. So yes, I watched this game with an Ole Miss alum, being my sister-in-law, and it was kind of nice to see her get a little, yelling at the TV. I'm like, okay, it's not just us. Nice. But yes, it was one of those weird situations where I had Mississippi State plus 26.5. So like the entire time I'm like, no, continue sucking. Continue not playing well. Continue to not get it on fourth down. Like, yeah, this is good. Mississippi State came to play. It was a game at first, and then Ole Miss just started to pull away. But I don't know. Ole Miss is my second favorite SEC team. But just based off of math and logic, I knew they weren't going to win by 4 touchdowns. So I feel like that was the smart money of the day. But
yeah,
good to see Jackson Dart and the boys get one.
Yeah,
my
get a little
a rebel.
Yeah, last meaningful game at least.
Yeah.
He'll opt out of the bowl game if they don't make the playoff. When they don't make the playoff. But
let's say,
yeah, he ain't gonna be there.
Yeah.
Could
be his last game.
Mm-hmm. All I have to say is a couple of things. I'm glad it was a close game. Mississippi State hung around. Obviously, with what happened with Mike Leach and everything, it's they haven't really turned around since. It's been a tough spot. So I'm glad they hung around. And then I am a big proponent of moving this game back to Thanksgiving where it should be. And that's all I really have to say on that topic.
Yeah, valid. I agree wholeheartedly. Y'all kind of summed up what I have to say. I think Miss State quarterback Michael Van Buren, he is a really good young player. Yeah, he's a freshman, true freshman. So he made some plays against Georgia that really got me, I don't want to say excited, but like it impressed
just the sport.
It impressed me quite a bit.
He's nice.
So hopefully he continues to develop and the Bulldogs got something there.
That is the third SEC team off the top of my head that has a true freshman at quarterback that is going to be exciting to watch moving forward.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to Kevin Coleman, his number 1 wide receiver. Probably the best wide receiver in the country that most people have never heard of. That he also had a great game. But yeah, we can move on. Nothing really more to talk about that.
Yeah, not quite.
Care business. Colorado belt to ass Oklahoma State, and then let's move on to the. Go ahead, Brandon.
The nightcap.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Where to start with that one?
Well, we jumped over a couch. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, the Dogs. Yeah, 8 overtimes later. I still don't know how I feel. I mean, I'm not surprised that they came out and went down 17. I thought hopefully it maybe wouldn't be. I knew we were going to go down.
Yeah.
Get ready for a lot of we. If you don't want to hear we and the Georgia game, you feel free to skip to the next one. You're going to hear some Homer talk here real quick. But I don't know. I mean, I'm glad to see the resiliency, to use a Kirby Smart buzzword, the resiliency that the team showed was definitely there. Tech played their asses off. our defense is. I'm, and we'll get into this later for conference championship previews. But if they have like some kind of Arch Manning package where he comes in and just runs the ball, that genuinely scares me.
Yep.
After seeing what Haynes King has done to our defense and pretty much any other mobile quarterback, hell, the quarterback from UMass, I don't even remember his name. But he balled. I mean, he had his own read or two where he took off down the field and we can't stop it. So, gutsy performance for the Dogs to come back and win in the way that they did, but not the game that I was prepared to be watching that day. And then last thing for now, I don't know if it's analytics or what, but that first 2-point conversion from Kirby, I'm curious to know, one, if that was his idea, or if that was like, somebody, they have some kind of offensive analyst who's crunching the numbers or whatever. I don't know where that came from. It made not a lick of sense. And Georgia could have scored and kicked an extra point to go up 1 point and not had to go to overtime. Yeah. But I don't know. I'm not coaching him. So that's ultimately his decision. Just a little bewildered by that one.
Yeah, on that 2-point conversion, I saw a clip from his post-game presser where he essentially was like, the analytics told us, it might be advantageous to go, I guess, something about stealing the momentum or whatever, because then you kick an extra point to win, and I just don't know. I mean, you're just getting your feet under you in the third quarter of that game. You do not have to go chasing points.
Yeah, that was the first time Georgia punched the ball in the end zone. I don't know. It just feels like, yes, it could be a momentum swing in your favor, but it could also be not in your favor if you don't get it. So,
I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah, it did not make any sense to me, especially looking back on it. We very well could have won the game 28-27 easily without having to force overtime. I'm glad you brought that up. Didn't make any sense to me. And also, what kind of message does that send to the rest of your team? Like, you're chasing points in the third quarter.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm glad it worked out, right? But it would have been nice to not need to go into overtime. So I have a couple of things. Number one, I put out a TikTok before this game happened about how I kind of wanted the game to be close and to be dramatic. Not that fucking close. Not that dramatic.
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah, careful what I wish for. I also want $1 million. But no, for serious, it was a great game. I do think the rivalry needed a game like this. I think, as y'all are well aware, I think we've been trending in the direction of a game like this where Tech has been trending up, and it was only a matter of time until we either lose a game or win really close. I mean, we only won by a possession last year. So anyway, that's number one. Number two, listening to a podcast this morning, Big Bets on Campus. Go give them a listen. This is the first year I can't remember how long they said. This is the first year in a very long time that Georgia has a negative scoring differential in the first quarter for the entire season.
Yeah, I believe that.
We have a problem. We have a problem, and it's getting off the bus. And that was evident. I mean, going down 17-0 against your in-state rival, who you're supposed to be so much better than.
Yeah. No, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 3, Dan Jackson is a monster. That is my...
Not targeting.
It's not targeting.
Sorry, guys.
That's putting a hat on a ball.
Yeah.
That is textbook. Also, I know his dad and his whole family. His dad was my wife's dentist growing up. So soft spot in my heart for Dan Jackson. And number 4, if I'm Brent Key and Buster Faulkner, I am going for 2 at the end of the first overtime. That's the only thing I would change from their game plan. And I would not take the ball out of Haynes King's hand in overtime. I feel like they kind of got away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I think that was a bad call. But like, I'll be honest, if I'm Brent Key and Buster Faulkner, I'm running Haynes King up the middle 3 straight times, and then if I get stuffed 3 straight times, like second, third, and fourth, or third, fourth, and fifth overtime, then it's like, okay, then I'm going to start trying to throw the ball or like do a jump pass, Tebow-esque. But like, I mean, I don't know. Other than the play where Dan Jackson put a hat on a ball, Haynes King had a perfect game as far as being the running quarterback. I don't know why you get away from that when all you need is 3 yards. Yeah, those are my main takeaways.
I like it. You want me to go?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The first quarter statistic. This is kind of a little bit of preview too. Yeah, that rings true. You want to know the one game where they have a positive point differential in the first quarter? Texas game, the one in Austin.
Yep.
So whatever they did that week, they're going to have to do it again. But that is a topic for another minute in this video. So we'll get there when we get there. As for this game, honestly, I think the first half was one of the worst first halves I've ever seen them play. Obviously, there was a certain first half in Tuscaloosa that occurred earlier this year that was a lot worse. But given that this one was at home, I was about to say on senior night, but I just remembered they did the senior day festivities against UMass. Essentially, the seniors' final game in Sanford, where they were undefeated. Shout out Joe Tess. Said it 80,000
oh
times.
My God!
Yeah, the commentating wasn't very good.
The playoff is on the line here.
Oh my God! But
it was like commentator jinxes all over the place.
All over the place.
Woodring hasn't missed a field goal inside 30 yards. They were undefeated at home this senior class. Playoff line. Like, shut the fuck up.
Usually I'm like okay with Testator, but this time it felt a little forced, a little obnoxious, but
like you don't have to make this game a bigger deal than it already is. People who are watching this game already know how big of a deal it is that Georgia is losing at home.
Yes.
They know.
But take what I just said about the first half, flip it on its head about the second half, about the offense in particular. I think Carson Beck bounced back very nicely in the second half. I mean, for the total game, he had 297, 5 touchdowns. That's, all you can really ask for from a highly touted guy like Carson Beck. Defense, not perfect, but they got it together when they needed to. Hoping, like I think you said, Drew, hoping they can get on the bus next week. Or, sorry, get off the bus next week.
Yeah, both.
Yeah.
Both, yeah.
Correct. They need to.
Because we're traveling next week.
Yeah.
And we are definitely taking a bus.
Yeah. Brandon, I'm not sure if you had delivered your thoughts, but
I had my opening little monologue. I can give my closing statements here real quick.
I do want to talk about overtime rules while we're on this topic, but
yes,
I can wait.
I might have brought that up. I can segue you into that, but no, I agree. They need to get on and off the bus against Texas. You spot a team like that, 17 points, you're not winning the game. Plain and simple, that is what it is. It's not going to happen. So, but Drew, I'm glad you said about Haynes King, because I was talking to my dad about the game, and I said the same thing. I don't know why you take the ball out of your playmaker's hands and you need 3 yards. Let him roll out, and if he doesn't have anything, let him lower the shoulder and get in. I mean, it had been working all night for Tech, and they switched it up at last second. And then the one time they did try to run him in, he got stuffed. Because it was a penalty and they were on the 1 yard line. No, 2 yards close. 2 yards closer, we can actually run the ball, I guess. But
everybody and their mother was blitzing in the B gap that play. Like, they knew.
Yes. They knew it was coming.
It was just a question of which B gap,
Yeah, but you can. I mean, get creative. Let him roll out. Let him make the play. I will say I was up until that point where it was like say like Georgia stopped Georgia Tech, and then they were going to get the ball back, and if they didn't get that 2-point conversion, they would have another attempt back to back. I was begging for somebody, Georgia, to run the ball on that first one. And they finally did, and they got in the end zone. So, I mean, I know a lot of teams, this is very new. I'm sure you don't really go through this in your weekly install. Hey, we might have to come up with 8 2-point conversion plays.
They ran out.
Yeah.
Kirby
so, I mean, like, obviously, he did. So, obviously, not really in the weekly game plan there. But,
yeah.
Overall, need to play better. Offense needs to get off the bus in the first quarter. I mean, if the Georgia defense shows up like they did against Texas and Austin earlier this year, I think it'll be fine. But Georgia's so wildly inconsistent throughout the game that I think Texas is going to have a good chance. But I'm going to segue into what Noah is going to say with my own opinion, because I think it's ludicrous that a game that is played on a 100-yard field is decided by dueling 2-point conversions. I don't think it's within the spirit of the game. I don't think it's like penalty kicks in soccer. It's kind of like that. It doesn't really embody much when you're going from the 3-yard line. You're very limited in plays you can run. Everybody's backed up in the end zone or bringing the house. So, I mean, I think we might have touched on this briefly before, but not a fan of the dueling 2-point. I also think it starts much too early in the third overtime. And then in the second overtime to have to go for 2. I don't know. Just let them play a little more football. That's all I have to say. Real football, at least. But
yeah. I think we were having a conversation about this like either last week or the week before.
I think it was last week.
Yeah.
Because Drew had a very good idea for how to fix overtime, and I'm going to retweet that right now because we need it.
So I think I've actually changed my mind a little bit, but last week I said, start normal, and then the first overtime you get on the 25 like they do normally, and you play, and then the second overtime you get on the 20, and then the third you get it on the 15, so on and so forth. Gotcha. I can pause it right there, let you have your thoughts, and then give you my updates after, or I can just go ahead and tell you what I think now.
I was just gonna say, like, I am in agreement with the both of you. Like, this format sucks. I didn't really have an alternative. I liked yours last week when we were talking. I was listening to the Josh Pate College Football Show today, and he has an alternative that I think I really mess with. Want to see what you guys think about it. Basically, just trashing the entire current format, like the start of the 25 stuff. Start at the 50-yard line. That way, it shortens. Just hear me out. Okay. You want to shorten the game, right? Player safety, player, longevity is your concern. Put it at the 50-yard line. That adds so you're not automatically in scoring position. So if you don't score, all that the other offense needs to do is to get into field goal range, kick a field goal. Game over. Mm-hmm. So the longevity concerns would kind of be addressed there anyway. And, the stupidest part of the game the other night is we're running 2-point conversions, right? One team runs it. The other team, I guess it's on the same side of the field. Yeah.
There you go.
Back and forth. Between every overtime. It was the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
Yep.
So I think starting at the 50 kind of alleviates 2 of those, problems I had with it, but no model is going to be perfect. But ultimately, I think we just need to get back to playing football, the sport that got us to overtime in the first place.
Yeah. Is it timed or is it possession based?
He was pushing for a timed model. I don't think I like that.
I don't like the timed model.
I think if it's timed, you need to just go full on NFL overtime, kick it off, have them go full field. I think that's where we're heading. I mean, I feel like they could adopt the current. I like the current NFL postseason one though. I like both teams getting the ball. Just kick it off and let them have in any other sport, like in soccer. You have you don't just go straight to penalty kicks. You have an extra period before you get there, and it's that way currently. But that period is not long enough to justify. Okay, now we're gonna do this. In my opinion,
correct.
So, what I have come up with in my head, because this consumes my being 24 hours a day.
Well,
yeah. So I think you start normal on the 25 and go from there. And then, so as it is right now, the first 2 overtimes, you're on the 25, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
The only caveat is on the second overtime, you have to go for 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what you could do is you can play around with it however you wanted to. First overtime, normal, not a problem at all. And at some point, you switch over to starting on the 10-yard line, and it's a goal-to-go situation. And then if once you get to a certain point, then you start having to go for 2. I think that should be, like, using the current model as the basis. I think that should be the progression. Now, the argument could be had, like, oh, should you start at the 10-yard line in the second overtime or the third overtime? I think following their current, like, longevity and, like, player safety, I think 25 in the first in the first overtime, the 10-yard line in the second overtime, and then the third overtime is where you have to start going for 2. But you're still from the 10-yard line to start. So that kind of opens things up. You can still throw the ball, and the wide receivers has some room to work with, and you can still run a running play because you still have 4 downs potentially to get a touchdown. And I don't know. I don't know if I want to make field goals illegal after a certain point. I think you do, but yeah, I think I want to make field goals illegal after a certain point. But anyway.
Did y'all see in double overtime, Tech had to burn a timeout because they sent the kicker out instead of going for the 2-point conversion?
Jesus.
Yeah, I saw that.
I also think it's kind of ridiculous that they get a fresh set of timeouts every overtime. Like, don't get me wrong. I love the fact that we were able to because Kirby Smart, as a defensive head coach,
he
called it every time.
Every single time.
Why not?
Like, if I'm Brent Key and Buster Faulkner, I'm running out there with fucking 6 tight ends and Haynes King, and then Kirby's gonna call a timeout. Bet we're coming out 5 wide next play. Like, there's no, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's the first I've seen of that. And one of these long overtime games is like kind of like, something that's not noticed until it's done. But I mean, hey, you get any advantage. The slightest advantage you can get at that point is gonna win you the game. When the margins are that razor thin in like 7 overtimes. So
I mean, that was the first time. I'll be honest. That was the first time this season that I saw Kirby Smart outcoach another coach within memory. Like that, where it genuinely came
situationally speaking.
Yes, it came down to coaching in the moment.
He that is the right into the timeout strategy. Yeah.
Yes.
No, I agree.
Yes.
No, that was nice.
I mean, earlier games in the season, obviously out game planned Texas, out game planned, Tennessee, but like in the moment, situationally, drawing up defenses to counter offenses, it was really refreshing to see.
I'd argue.
No, I agree.
Texas. I think he outcoached Sark in Georgia, Texas, round 1.
In the game
in Austin, yeah, I think he did. Because I mean, after the trash incident, you got to rein in the team because they're something like that stops the game.
I was in a wedding during that game, to be fair,
it's valid.
Yeah,
I'll give you that.
No, I mean, I would say that this year is Kirby situationally has not been at his peak like he has been in years past. I mean, when Georgia's been at their best, he's been obviously a very good game planner, defensive mind, but he has the wherewithal to have these moments. I feel like it's kind of been more of a lot of stuff this year with Dan Lanning is like, oh, he did this on purpose for this purpose, and that benefited him this way. So it's fitting to see him do that, but Kirby is really good at it when he's able to do it. It, like Noah said, it's nice to see it. It reminds me of I think my favorite call of his, not to get on too much of a tangent, was the fake punt timeout in the against Ohio State in the Peach Bowl.
Mm.
Yeah, that fake punt timeout.
Absolutely.
That is
saved
the
game.
Best head coaching decision I've ever seen him make.
Arguably the best timeout I've seen in the past decade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, I mean, when he's at his best, he can do something like that, and arguably that saved the game.
Yeah.
That among other things. So, he's a hell of a coach, and not doubting him, but we're gonna need him to keep performing like that, and the team to get off the bus for Texas. But we'll save that for later.
I was about to say, yeah, we've spent a lot of time on the Georgia.
Yes, way too much time on Georgia. Can't blame us though. This is our bread and butter. But anyways, we're gonna continue on in the recap. That was the last one on Friday. We can move on to Saturday. This was a pretty loaded noon slate. Two really, really good games. We can go ahead and let's just start out with the game real quick. We touched on it earlier in the Dogs of the Week video. If you're watching this but you haven't seen that, go watch Dogs of the Week. It's a great watch. I promise. But Noah gave it to Kalel Mullings for his performance in the game. Pretty much the only person who could do much at all for Michigan on the offensive side of the ball. This one was kind of a stinker a little bit, at least if you like offense. And
Big Ten football, baby.
I mean,
Big Ten football at its core. And I will say, Ryan Day, this is inexcusable in my opinion. And I know we've had conversations and there's been short form made about Mr. Day, but I don't know, man. And in Michigan having this down of a year, kind of the hangover after winning the national championship, lose your head coach and pretty much all your best NFL prospects down year, but to still beat Ohio State at the end of the year.
Yep.
It's pretty inexcusable for Ryan Day.
It reminds me of the phrase that I heard a couple of years ago when Harbaugh kind of built this machine, ground and pound between the tackles. We're going to out-muscle you. Ohio State is built to win national championships. Michigan is built to beat Ohio State.
Mm.
And obviously Michigan is a lot better at beating Ohio State than Ohio State is at winning national championships.
Yes.
At least over the past 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah. If you would have told me 4 years ago that Michigan was about to go on a 4-year run against this Ohio State.
After what, 8 years?
Excuse me. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it was a stretch there. Yeah.
Yeah. Where there seemed to be no end in sight for the Ohio State dominance, and then is Harbaugh the guy? I remember having those conversations. Like, is Harbaugh on the hot seat?
Yeah, I do too.
Granted,
no, the roles were reversed,
and not on a YouTube channel at that time. But
yes, but it was still there. Those conversations were still being had.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
But I mean, obviously, how the tables have turned for that. I mean, because I don't know, man. On paper, Ohio State. I don't know what the spread was in this game, but I mean,
I knew. Yeah, it was some
heavy
favorites up to 22. Yeah,
yeah.
It was a
so
lot.
I mean, especially with a conference championship appearance on the line. Now I know, granted, nowadays those don't really mean as much. But I mean, you're still playing for a first round bye. You're playing to avenge your loss against Oregon earlier this season, a game that came down to the final play. So obviously you're trying to get there, and to be stopped by Michigan of all people. I mean, that's, if I'm an Ohio State fan, I don't know how Ohio State fans feel, but I mean,
not good.
Not good.
No, I mean about in general, but about Ryan Day. I mean, what do you do? I don't know. I mean,
the problem is, where do you go?
That's my thing is like, yeah, you move on from him, but what's next? I don't think he's a bad head coach, but I mean, damn, he can't get over whatever he has going on with Michigan. It's honestly crazy to see. I mean, this Ohio State team going into the season on paper was one of the more talented rosters we'd seen in college football in a while, in my opinion. A loaded defense coming back, got a few big transfer pieces. I mean, they were stacked, and I mean they're still 10-2. It's not like they went completely wrong, but such a sour note to end the season on. They'll make the playoff, but the path is not going to be as easy.
Nope. And I mean, it's not 100% on Ryan Day because he's never been one to call plays. Like, he'll make decisions in big moments, like going for it on fourth down or fake field goals or whatever. But like, Chip Kelly's the offensive coordinator. I don't know why. Like, I genuinely think they thought that they could beat Michigan at Michigan's game and just run it down their throats like they did with Penn State. That is not what happened. Like, this is Michigan's Super Bowl. They do not give a damn who they play in the bowl game. This is their bowl game.
Yep.
Like, and especially when your quarterback throws 2 goal line interceptions. Like, that is when teams like Michigan can beat Ohio State. That's when teams like Vanderbilt can beat Alabama. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, that's the perfect recipe that you need for a ground and pound team to take control of the game and force you to make mistakes. That's all they need.
Yep.
And to do it in the shoe, I think, is all the more impressive.
Absolutely.
Agreed. This Michigan team, I'll tell you what, they've had one hell of a past few weeks. Tell you what, they flipped Bryce Underwood from LSU, and then turn around and do this. This sends a message that they're not going anywhere. Like, yes, they had a down year. They did not win an away game until this week.
That's nuts.
Yes.
Your first away game to win.
Yeah, loss.
Yeah, that's insane.
Loss. At Indiana, loss. This is their first one. Absolutely mind-blowing. But, yeah, this Michigan roster, still very, very talented. Sharon Moore, he's going to be around for quite a while. I really like him as a coach. It was just about getting the quarterback. And I feel like if they had gotten a quarterback worth half a damn in the portal, they would have been, I'll give them 10 wins.
10
if
wins.
They had gotten,
I like that. They only lost to Indiana by 5.
Exactly. So their defense is so good. I love their defense.
Yep.
But
they lost to. Never mind. Just kidding. They won that game. I can't read.
You can't read. Yeah, neither can I. But I love this win for the future of Michigan football. I think y'all kind of touched on the Ohio State side. Had to give Michigan a little bit of shine.
Yep.
Hell of a win, honestly.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Plant the damn flag. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. Honestly.
Some people are saying it's new field rush.
I do think that it's getting a little. We need to come up with something else.
Yeah, it's kind of copycat-esque. I think it was funny, just the rapid succession this past week, and it was like, I made a TikTok on it. It was at least 4 teams that did it. My favorite was Arizona State with the Trident. That was pretty sick. I like that a lot. Yeah. But no, the Michigan Ohio State game was the only one where people got pepper sprayed. So there's that.
That's nuts. That's nuts. Like, I was talking to one of my buddies on the way home this afternoon, and he was like, at what point does a brawl in a post-college football game just become assault? Like, at what point can you press charges? Like,
you probably could. I mean,
probably could.
The game's over. There's no sanctioned football game going on. It's over. So I mean, punches are being thrown. You got to break it up somehow. But I mean, I saw videos. They were just like, they didn't care who they were getting. They just sprayed like it was They're spraying that shit like it was Febreze. I mean, it was going everywhere.
Like it was Axe body spray in a middle school locker room.
Yeah, just dishing it out. I mean, obviously they obtained their goal. They broke it up. That's one way to do it. But damn, I mean, I don't know. That just seems like a lawsuit waiting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've never seen in my years of watching college football. I haven't seen anything quite like that.
No. I mean, great game though. Good.
Yeah, it was very, very good game. Like Noah said, shout out to Michigan. Hell of a defensive effort. Capitalized where they needed to, and I mean, this was, the game they had circled. If we're not playing for anything else, not making the playoff, gotta beat Ohio State. So.
Yeah. So I know that Ohio State calls Michigan the team up north.
I was gonna say gotta beat the team up north, but I was like, shit, that's the wrong way around. That's why I kind of stuttered there. I don't know. I don't think they say the team down south, do they?
I don't think so. Maybe the team from Columbia or something like that, or Columbus.
Plus, I know Ohio State crosses out the M's. Does Michigan do the same thing with like Oh, or do they just not?
I don't think so.
It seems very one-sided.
It does.
Seems like Ohio State's a bit salty. Because I know those are the big two things from Ohio State side. I just don't know how it works the other way around from Michigan's point of view.
Any Michigan fan, unless Noah is able to find something, any Michigan
let
fans
us know.
this, please let us know. Or anybody from Big Ten country that just happens to know, let us know. Do y'all want to move on to the Palmetto Bowl?
We can touch on that real quick, and Noah, if you find anything, feel free to interrupt.
I don't think there's going to be anything. Y'all go right ahead, though.
Okay. Well, let us know in the comments. Yeah. Anyways, moving on. Man, Lenore Sellers.
Jesus, dude.
He's good. He's
good.
very good.
He is good.
I considered him for my dog of the week there for a second. I mean,
warranted.
Yeah. Maybe not through the air, but just for what he did on the ground.
I was about to
average
say,
10 yards a carry, dude. I mean, he had anything he wanted on that South Carolina defense.
If he had a passing touchdown, he probably would have been my dog of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Valid.
For sure.
I mean, Klubnik, not awful, more passing yards, but nowhere near the rushing output. But Klubnik still had 2 rushing touchdowns. I mean, this was the
he's
battle
got the
of the
capacity
mobile quarterbacks? Question mark.
Maybe.
But no, I mean, it was a good game. I think both defenses played well. I think we saw the strengths of both teams come out to play, which, obviously are their defenses. Albeit their front sevens maybe forgot to account for the quarterbacks. But
perhaps
at least through the air, both defenses played very well.
Mm-hmm.
Kept everything in front of them. So
yeah. No, I mean, great win for South Carolina. They're very one of the better stories of the year, at least teams that have exceeded their expectations. I think they're building something very good there. Their front seven is one of the best in college football, in my opinion. I don't know how many of those guys are leaving next year, but they retain some of those guys and get some more development out of Lenore Sellers through the air to pair with that production on the ground. I mean, watch out. I've said this before. I'll say it again. As a Georgia fan, I'm glad we don't have to play them this year for the first time in however many years, because that would have not been fun. But no, I mean, I'm happy for him. And Beamer ball is working, man.
It is.
And, I think it's hilarious how, Clemson drops that game and it doesn't really mean anything. Miami loses, and plus South Carolina isn't a conference opponent. So they still have a chance to win and make the playoff. But we'll get to that preview in a little bit here.
South Carolina is the best 3-loss team in the country right now.
Yep.
Easily.
Easily, yes. I would agree with you.
Alabama tomorrow. They win by 10 points.
Yep.
I can't argue with that. I mean, they've gotten hot at the right time. Unfortunately, probably not going to be a spot for them to continue to be hot and for it to be in a meaningful game. There's people who are saying they deserve it. But we'll see if there's any 3-loss team from the SEC that makes it. Unfortunately, though, I think it might not be that. But that could be a whole nother conversation.
Well, these rankings will be very, very telling tomorrow night.
Yes. Very, very indicative of things to come.
The rankings tomorrow night will arguably be more important than the rankings on Sunday.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Because then, you get your conference results. A lot of those teams that are in the conference championship are going to be in anyway. So you get an idea of where those bubble teams are at right now. And that's pretty much give or take where they're going to be.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. Vanderbilt tried to keep it interesting, but pulled away there.
Tennessee getting the 2 for touchdown into halftime, touchdown out of halftime to kind of put them away.
Yep.
So only so much Pavia can do.
True.
Dylan Sampson is a man who gets a lot of touches, and they could not stop him.
Yep.
Notre Dame. Well, he didn't have a touchdown. I'm just noticing, but
Notre Dame got a scare there for a bit. I saw a guy on TikTok say that Notre Dame, Texas, and Oregon are the 3 teams to beat. I'm like,
I think they're beatable, guys.
Notre Dame gave up 35 to a 6-6 USC. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And I believe
I think they're human.
Yeah, 100%. And I believe the only reason that Notre Dame won this game was because they had 2 defensive touchdowns.
Mm-hmm. That definitely helps.
Yeah, it does not hurt.
Yeah, man.
You touched on it earlier. You want to talk the Qs?
I can touch on that. We were talking about it earlier. I took Kyle McCord as my dog of the week. If you haven't watched Dogs of the Week, go watch it. You won't regret it, I promise.
Right now.
But Kyle, yes, right now. Pause this video. Go to
Open
it.
a new tab. Type in youtube.com/3
Yeah, the whole new thing.
Yep.
Give us the extra engagement. If you're in the long video, rewind back, watch it again, then come back. For a little refresher. But anyways, Syracuse with a gutsy performance knocked off Miami, who had their conference title, the ACC title, in their sights, controlled their own destiny, and went into Syracuse, New York, and got beat by Kyle McCord and the gang. I'm a really big fan of Fran Brown. I think he's a great coach. I think he's building something there at Syracuse. 9 wins for the Orange this season. Have a chance to have a 10-win season with their bowl game in year 1 for Fran Brown, which is very, very impressive. And just to hear his post-game interview after the game, he's a great guy. And I don't think Syracuse could have hired a better head coach for their situation this past offseason. And then I'm also happy for Kyle McCord. A guy who was pretty much blamed for all of Ohio State's offensive woes this past season by many people, including me. It was a hard trend to overlook. There's a lot of games last year, admittedly, where it could be argued that if Ohio State had a game through the air, they could have done more.
Yep.
And their defense was very good and didn't really have the offense to prepare for it. But Kyle McCord kind of coming into his own in Syracuse in that in their offensive system, almost had 400 yards to the air and then 3 touchdowns. So Miami had been flirting with it all year. They already dropped one to Tech earlier, and they drop another one in the same kind of fashion where it's kind of a back and forth battle till the end, and they just lose it. So.
Yeah.
So I said it before. If you're watching the long form, I apologize for repeating myself. However, I think it's worth mentioning that this is the first time in a long time, at least off the top of my head, that all 4 of the Power 4 conference championship games were decided in the final week of play.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, if Miami had just won this game, it wouldn't have been a problem because they were the front runner behind SMU to make the championship game. But, I mean, Texas A&M was a play-in game. With Ohio State losing to Michigan, Penn State gets the nod. With Miami losing to Syracuse, Clemson gets the nod. And then we're not even going to talk about the Big 12. I mean, that was just...
Who knows?
There were line graphs. That shit was crazy.
Yeah.
I remember I said Saturday morning, it was like...
Yeah.
elaborate.
Yeah, I saw...
So a family tree.
Yeah, I saw a Gantt chart. And I was like, okay, all right, never mind. We're just gonna.
I'm just gonna let that play out on its own.
Yeah. There's a
Let's
reason we
find out.
Keep it away from that on these long form videos.
Yeah.
Just because we don't really understand it. Let's be honest. But yes, shout out to the Qs. SMU is rolling. I'll be honest. If SMU beats Clemson, it'll not surprise me.
It won't. I think they deserve to make it even if they don't. But that could be another conversation for later.
How far does Miami fall? Last thing on ACC play.
They'll be 12-13. That's what I think.
So
they'll be on the bubble.
Their bubble.
They're a bubble team, big bubble team.
Which they shouldn't be. I hold them above any 3-loss SEC team. It's just, I don't know.
You're saying outside looking in with the Big 12 champion, obviously getting.
Yeah.
At least this
most likely
they need help.
I personally don't think Miami should be in the playoffs, but that's just my.
We'll save it. That'll be good.
I think they've been flirting with death all year long.
No, they have.
I agree.
They're finally getting exposed for it.
Definitely.
All right. SEC
moving on. Yeah. Does anybody want to say anything about the Iron Bowl? I don't really have anything to say. To be honest with you, kind of a stinker. Because like it was funny going into this last week's preview, preview was like, oh, kind of a year where it's like you think about the game and the Iron Bowl, and it's like, blah. So the game delivered, the Iron Bowl didn't. They were on the blah side of that one. I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't watch much of it. So Drew, if you did, give us your in-depth analysis of this football game.
So I would have watched it no matter what, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just because I probably would have had money on it if I would have stayed in a state where I could have had money on it.
Valid.
After I'd gathered all the data. But yes, I watched this game at my grandparents' house. My grandma is a huge Alabama fan. So we watched it, even though it kind of sucked. Yeah, I mean, it was just Auburn playing Auburn football. I mean, Peyton Thorne had a pick that came at an untimely moment that led to an Alabama touchdown that kind of put things away. Jarquez Hunter also had a pick. If that just, tells you that pretty much just tells you how the game goes. Anytime a player with a number 2 as the first digit in their jersey number throws an interception, things probably aren't going well. But yeah, so not good. I mean, Alabama didn't really do anything special. Just Auburn shot themselves in the foot a couple of times, and that led to Alabama tutties. So, all right, we can move on.
Valid.
Yep.
Yeah, kind of indicative of Auburn's season, I think. Not a great year under Hugh Freeze. I mean, okay, they're 5-7. I mean, there's worse things. They knocked off A&M. They made the things at least interesting, so at least they have that. But
they lost
for Auburn standards, yeah. Very interesting. Moving on, does anybody have anything they want to say about any other game before we talk Texas A&M?
Indiana beat the shit out of Purdue. I know.
Yep, there you go. Curtis Rourke, dog of the week, balled out. All right, let's have a go at it. This game was kind of a tough watch. I'm not gonna lie to you. Just solely on the basis that A&M had several opportunities on a silver platter hand delivered to them, and their offense couldn't do anything with it. Texas's defense played lights out, won them the game, quite frankly. With the turnovers, the block punt, I mean, just so many points left on the table for A&M. They easily could have won this game. And to do that in front of your home crowd is tough because Kyle Field was rocking. It was a raucous environment there in College Station. However, it didn't really matter in the end. I think Texas looked fine. They kind of looked their usual selves. I don't think it was anything special on their part, at least on the offensive side of the ball. Like I said, defense played lights out, contained Marcel Reed, one of the better mobile quarterbacks in college football, I'd argue. He's been hot lately, has been a very big factor on the ground. So they bottled him, and Texas A&M didn't really have much success outside of that. So that was their biggest effort. Outside of that, Texas offensively didn't really impress me that much. I do think Arch Manning, we're going to be seeing some more packages where Arch Manning comes in and, maybe runs an RPO or two or like a zone read or something to mix it up. I could see them doing that to kind of get a breather from Quinn Ewers. Add another, make their offense a little more dynamic because Quinn is not a very mobile guy in the pocket. So,
especially with an ankle that was worthy of an MRI.
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't
so
know if
not much.
I don't know if y'all caught it on the broadcast. Chris and Kirk were talking about him wearing some special invention on his ankle, like a new kind of brace. It's more like an exoskeleton than a real brace. Like it goes outside of the shoe, which allows more mobility. Apparently, it's some brand new thing. So intriguing for sure.
That is interesting.
Kind of keep an eye on entering the SEC title game.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, this was definitely a snoozer.
Yeah.
Took care of the business.
I mean, this was a game where I had a hard time fighting for the television because of how much of a snoozer this game was. I was at my in-laws, and my mother-in-law and my wife were kind of ganging up on me. Like, they wanted to watch like The Holiday or something like that. And I'm like, guys, like, this is going to determine who plays Georgia in the SEC championship game.
I'm grinding tape here.
I would like to watch it.
We're scouting.
And I got some brownie points. I went to go see Wicked. I was like, listen.
What do a musical?
Yeah. Not terrible. We could talk about that later. Patreon content. No, that's what next week's for.
Movie review. That would be the funniest thing ever.
That would be the funniest thing ever.
Stocked. Hey, buddy.
That's funny.
But yeah, it was a snoozer. And like every time that this game had an opportunity to become a game, it just didn't, because Texas A&M's offense does not have a pulse. Like I don't understand why you don't switch things up at quarterback at least once, at least for a drive, at least for a couple of plays, just to give the Texas defense something to think about. I mean,
you want him to go to Weigman?
Yeah, fuck it. Reed wasn't working. Like,
I mean, yeah, I agree with what you're saying.
Do something.
Your season's on the line. You're just kind of laying over and dying.
Yeah, like the only way that you are playing in a meaningful postseason game is if you win this game. On top of the fact, this is a renewal of a 13-year dead rivalry game that you lost last time on a last-second field goal.
True.
Like, and you're at home. I just feel like Texas A&M came out a little flat considering the circumstances. Shout out to the Texas A&M defense and special teams unit. They tried their damnedest to keep them in this game. The offense let them down. They were not playing complimentary ball.
We're not.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Ewers did not impress me. Now, albeit, like you said, may have a bum ankle. But they knew what they needed to do. Get a lead, hold it, get the hell out of there, move on to Atlanta.
Yeah, so. I think they did and this isn't to say, it's a bad game plan, but they did just about the bare minimum they could to win that game on offense. Yep. And I mean, hey, if you're going to the SEC championship, in your eyes, maybe don't show all your cards. I don't know. Yep. Not a bad strategy. So I think this is more of an indictment on A&M's offense, and made me more impressed with Texas's defense coming out of the back end of it. Because damn, dude, if they could have capitalized on literally anything, it would have been a much better game.
All of a sudden, it's a one-score game, and anything can happen.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm good on recap.
Yeah, I mean, Texas just bullied them all day. Like, they were the more physical team, and it showed. I mean, that's it.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, if you're watching in this little segment of our shortened long form, let us know in the comments. I'm going to end recap here. So let us know in the comments, what surprised you most about the rivalry week matchups. Your thoughts on any of it. We want to hear what you have to say.